Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Yay for Business podcast. It's me, Courtney Chaal, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about the transition from being a service provider to a course creator and what that's really like, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions there, and I have a lot to say on this topic. Okay, so before we dive in, this episode is officially sponsored by our upcoming virtual conference. So if you haven't heard, December 8th and 9th, I'm hosting a huge online event. It's the biggest thing we have ever done in the 8 or 9 years or so that I have been in this online business space. This conference, it's not a summit, it is a conference, is called From Service Provider to Course Creator. So if you are listening to this episode, if you were intrigued by today's topic, then the conference is literally just going to be a deeper dive and more perspectives on this same topic. I've just been obsessing over this space for a while, this space of being a service provider who's adding courses. And I feel like so many people out there are either like just teaching services or they just teach people to get away from services. And I feel like they both kind of villainize each other. The service providers are like, you don't need that. And then the course creators are like, stop doing services. It's awful and it's burning you out. And they're not wrong, right? Like, they both have points. And the truth is that most of us are going to spend a good amount of time, if not like all of our time in our business, doing both. Especially if you're currently a service provider and you want to launch a program, it's going to take a bit to get that to a point where you could even consider not offering your services anymore. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the whole conference is going to be talking about that transition. The first day, we're going to be more focused on the kind of the big picture of what that looks like and also the services, right? Like, what does it look like to really book out your services and scale them in a way that is sustainable and that is not burning you out, because there's a ton of misconceptions there. And then on day 2, we're going to kind of move towards okay, so what does it look like for you to actually launch an online course? What's the most efficient, strategic way to do it? Obviously, there's tons of ways you can do anything, but we're going to be teaching you the way that I personally recommend and teach. And we're also going to have a bonus day. So you can get all the details for the conference at courtneychaal.com/conference. Should be easy enough. And get this conference, it's not $500. It's not $200. It's not $99. It's only $25 for your ticket. You will get 7 days access to all the recordings. I don't want to spend too much time like yapping about this right now. You can go over to the page, get the details, but I really want every single person listening to get that ticket because, again, if you're already listening to this episode, if you listened to last week's episode where I was my schedule Smackdown for service providers, this is literally for you. So I really don't want you to miss out on that. Okay, so let's move into today's episode content. The question is, are you a service provider who's been thinking about launching a course or online program or membership or something like that? Like basically right now you are doing work for clients or you're coaching clients. So I like to categorize service providers in 3 different categories. And then obviously it doesn't always work out that way. Like most people fit into more than one category, but it's a good way to think about it that you could be a coach, a consultant, or a creative. So coaching meaning like you're on a lot of calls with clients. Consulting is kind of similar. It's a little bit more how to, or like this is what you do, than coaching, which is less about your expertise at the topic and more about your expertise as a coach in helping your clients. And then creatives is the category, and I don't want you to get too hung up on the words here, but creatives is the category of people who are kind of doing done for you services. So you might be a web developer, designer, photographer, whatever it is, you're actually more like behind the scenes doing some work and also in front of the scenes. But that's kind of how I categorize services. So you have currently services. Now you might be saying, oh, I have group services or I have a group program or whatever. I still am going to put that in the category of services. Okay. And then if you're thinking thinking about launching a course, a program, a membership site, whatever it is, then that's kind of that thinking of like, oh, I really want to create a way that I can create, quote unquote, passive income, which is one of my least favorite terms, but I know that's one people kind of hang on to and resonate with, or scalable income, or something that can make money for me without me having to exert more effort per client. That's kind of the idea there, right? So if that resonates with where you're at and you're kind of wondering like, how does my business grow from here? Like, what is this going to look like? This is for you. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this transition today. So whether you're sick of offering services or you want to offer services still, but you just want to add that scalable program offer on top of it, this is going to be a really, really juicy topic today. I hate saying that, but that's the word that came out. So we're just going to roll with it. Okay. So like I said, there's plenty of folks talking about launching online courses. There's plenty of folks talking about selling services. Me, I've been that person for the last 4 years with Yay for clients, but I don't feel like enough people are talking about the transition because people don't like gray areas, right? They like to put things in neat little bundles and, these people are over here and these people are over there. But the thing is, most of us are both or in between or want to go from one to the other. And it surprises me that I don't see more people really focusing on this, which also excites me because I'm like, ooh, something for me to grab onto and talk to you guys about. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 things. Number 1, I'm going to share with you the 2 problems you have at this phase of your business. Guaranteed. You have one of these problems. Number 2, we're going to talk about the 3 obstacles that almost every entrepreneur hits at this stage. And then we're going to talk about the action steps. What's next? What do we do now? And I'm kind of going to blend the action steps into the other parts, but we will also just kind of summarize, okay, what is the next step for you at the end? All right. So let's dive into these 2 problems that you might be facing. Like I said, you are going to have one of these problems and not the other, and that will make more sense in just a second. So the 2 problems are, number 1, you're not booked out. So you are like, you need more clients. You need to make more money. You have openings. You're like, where can I get more clients? I need to book more, etc. Problem number 2 then is you are booked out. Okay. So I'm going to explain why both of those are a problem. And by the way, I believe that every time we solve one problem, we create new problems. I think everything is a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons to things. Everything's relative. So that's why I'm saying these are both problems. Obviously, they have positives to them as well. But when I work with my clients inside of Yay for 100K, I notice that based on what side of this people are on, problem number 1 or problem number 2, they have a little bit of different needs and solution. So let's talk about the first problem. You're not booked out. So this is what happens if you want to go launch a program, right? You want to launch a course, but your services aren't booked out yet. Is we often think oh, I'm having trouble getting clients. I'd love to just launch a program. That sounds fun. I'm going to do it. That's what other people are doing. It's scalable. It's passive income, etc. All the reasons we've all had the course launch Kool-Aid. I'm not knocking courses. I'm obviously showing you how to launch them, but I'm also wanting you guys to be really intentional and really cautious about how you go about it. Because if you're not currently booking your services out regularly, at least a couple months in advance, all the time, basically, right? Obviously, sometimes you'll have more clients than others. Business is never 100% consistent or ever really that consistent. But if you are not getting clients regularly and you try to go launch a course, you're going to end up with way less consistent income because you're getting distracted doing all this course launch stuff and you haven't established the foundation of making sure that you have that income coming in every month from your services. So your services are your bread and butter right now, and your distractedness to focus on courses is causing you to drop the ball on marketing, selling, and even delivering your services. Mostly, I find people drop the ball all on marketing their services, and then they kind of run out of clients and they get all stressed out and they launch a course, and then the course, they have these like unrealistic expectations about how much money they're going to make on the first course launch, and like, oh my God, this is going to change everything, and I'm going to make, $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever. And even if that does happen, there's a harsh reality that now you're delivering the course, you're creating the course. It's so much more work in the beginning to launch that course. The course is a long-term marathon strategy. The services are what we need to sustain us right now so that we don't fall into desperation. We cannot fall into desperation because that creates desperation around our launch. Launches, guys, will bring up so much for you no matter what. Emotionally, bring up, limiting beliefs. It will be triggering at times. It will be stressful. That's just a matter of fact with launching. It is a big up leveling for our psyches, and it is a challenge, and it's a challenge I would love to help you to do, but I also want you to do that eyes wide open, knowing that it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies and super easy and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. It's not how it works. Otherwise, I would not be doing this podcast right now. On top of all that emotional strife and psychological strife, we add on to it desperation for the launch to work. And here's why that's a problem other than maybe the obvious. It's a problem because 99 times out of 100, I have worked with so many course creators, guys. I have seen behind the scenes of, I want to say hundreds of launches. I haven't counted, so I'm not going to give you a strict number, but I want to say hundreds of launches. I've worked with dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people at various capacities launching courses. And 99 times out of 100, what happens? If not 100 times out of 100, I'm just not saying that because I don't want to say it's all the time because I can't say that. People decide that things didn't work in their launch based on their feelings, based on their stress, based on a story that came up for them that is totally legit that happened, right? Like I said, launches bring up a lot of old shit. They bring up a lot of fears. So in that space, you add on the desperation, and then you start to make really illogical conclusions and decisions about your launch. You start to create these theories about your launch that are not based on data and information. They're based on emotion, okay? And so inside of Yay for 100K, what we do is we give all of our clients a spreadsheet to track the specific data points they need to have for launching a program so that then we can go over it with them and say, okay, this is the data. Okay. And we also ask them how do you feel about the launch? All of that. A lot of times people will have a feeling about their launch that is not showing up in the data. So they'll say things like, oh, my launch didn't work, or, oh, it was a flop, or, oh, it was it didn't go my way, or whatever. And they start to kind of go down that road. And I look at the numbers and I say, none of the numbers are saying that. None of the numbers. And what the numbers will say is, hey, it looks like everything's good. You just needed more traffic, right? You just needed more people to register for your launch training. Or, hey, everything looks good, but your sales number was a little low. Your ultimate sales conversion was low. So then I think, okay, let's tweak messaging. And then we're going to look at data on different places to look at where the messaging could be a problem for the data to tell us where that shows up, not us having this quote unquote instinct, which is actually based on fear, not instincts. I'm all about instincts, but it's not an instinct. It's fear about the launch. And then what people do is, because they feel like that launch didn't go well, they'll either procrastinate the next launch, they won't do it, they'll launch a new product, they create new things, or they try to launch with a completely different launch strategy to see if something else will work better, instead of looking at the data and making tweaks based on what the data tells you. Okay. So this is what happens when we add any kind of desperation on our launch. And this is why it is so important that you have regular, consistent income from your business before you launch a program, for your mental health and for making the best decisions for your business. Okay. Ultimately, if you launch too fast because you feel like it, or you really want to, or you're just eager and you're impatient about it, it's actually going to take you longer to make money, because you're going to get wrapped up in launching your program too soon, and you're not going to grow your audience enough. You're not going to nurture people enough. You're not going to validate the messaging enough. And thus you end up then having to take a launch that didn't go so well and then kind of like redoing it in a few months, which then delays your results even more. So I want to see you first booking out your services in a sustainable way. I can't get into the how-tos of that right now, but that's what I want you to do. We'll talk about that at the conference. If you end up working with me in Yay for 100K, that's what we're all about. Booking out those services in a sustainable way so that your marketing, sales, and delivery of your service are as streamlined and automated as possible. And I will I have a magic ability to identify areas in your marketing, your sales, and your delivery process. You think you're being efficient and you are not. You are just hemorrhaging time and energy. And that is precious. You can't get that back. So I want you doing that first. Then, as you're doing that, grow an online audience, because the difference between services and programs in terms of marketing is clients come from relationships and referrals, high touch relationships, right? So-and-so said I should work with you or whatever. And with courses, it needs to come from your visibility as a brand and you having an actual audience, an email list. So we actually have to start building that list at least 3 months before your launch. I want to see you have at least 500 people on your list before we launch your program. Okay. So that said, I want you to slow down if you're not booked out yet. I don't want you to be in such a rush to launch a program if you're not booked yet. I do want you to start thinking ahead 3-6 months from now that's when you could launch your program. But I want to make sure you don't skip steps because it's going to be to your detriment. I'm trying to save you from all these mistakes that I've made and other people have made. And I just hope that you'll learn it through listening and not the hard way. But if you learn it the hard way, that's okay too. We'll figure it out. But I just, come back to this podcast in 6 months. You might hear it a little bit differently. Okay. Problem number 2, right? If problem number 1 is you're not booked out, problem number 2 is that you are booked out. Now, this is a big old problem. I love this problem because, in my course, Yay for Clients, which is more like a standard course, right? In Yay for Clients, my goal is to create this problem for you. I want you to be booked out. And then when you get booked out, okay, now we need to focus on the next thing, right? Now, at the end of Yay for Clients, what I find is people get booked out, but they're still, because it's newer to them and because it's just a natural way of progression of doing things, is they still then need to move to that next phase where we start in Yay for 100K of, all right, now we've got to really streamline all these processes. Like you've got it in play, you're making this money, but we've got to tighten it up. We've got to streamline, like I said, that marketing, sales, and delivery so that you can create time and space in your calendar to now work on growing your audience and launching your program. The big problem here, and I talked about this a lot in last week's episode, so make sure to listen to that if this is resonating with you, is you start allowing your schedule to be overtaken by client work. You start prioritizing client work over working on your business. If somebody wants to work with you, you keep saying yes to clients who are not the right fit. And that's, by the way, little hint there, that, spoiler alert, that's a sign of an inefficiency in your sales system. Okay, so this is a huge problem I see in our newer Yay for 100K clients. So if you're feeling that way, you're not alone, but I want you to know is you probably are saying yes to a lot of clients because you're afraid to say no to that quote unquote good money. But the thing is, saying yes to clients that are not within your container of ideal clients is actually costing you so much because those clients are not a joy to work with. They're not your ideal clients. It's more time and energy to work with them for so many reasons. You're not able to streamline your processes because all the clients are different. The emotional energy of working with clients that are not ideal is no joke. If you've ever had that happen, you know that. I don't have to explain it to you. And so then your schedule gets filled up because you're afraid to say no to people. And the other thing I find is service providers are afraid to put people on a wait list, which is so funny to me because clients respect you so much more if they can't get in with you right away. If my hairdresser is amazing, but if she was just always available, I'd be like, well, you must not be very good. I don't want someone who's available right this second. That is concerning to me. That shows a amateurness to what they're doing. And so we need to make sure that you know how many clients you can take at a time because you have a certain amount of bandwidth in your schedule. And then you book people out. And if that's not enough money for you, well, then you need to raise your prices. Again, that goes into the sales automation, the marketing automation, all of that needs to get tightened up. I mean, all of that, right? whatever kind of thing is popping up for you, like, oh, well, but then I wouldn't have enough money, or, but I'm afraid to say no because all my clients are different. All these things, all these excuses popping up in your brain right now of like why you can't streamline those 3 aspects of your services are evidence of why you need to streamline those 3 aspects of your services. So feel free to DM me at Courtney Chaal if there's a specific thing coming up for you around that, because I want to see what the resistance is for you around streamlining your services. So again, delivery. You need to get ruthless about your delivery process. And what I mean by that is, so again, I keep talking about Yay for 100K, but I mean, that's my program and that's where all my resources are and all my lessons are. So just giving you guys a little bit of a like overview idea, like a little bit of insight into what this looks like. But for our Yay for 100K clients, when they start, one of the first things they do is they map out the delivery process of their service. And we look over that delivery process and we call out any areas where we're like, ooh, that looks like it's going to be a waste of time for you. Or that looks like, you might think you have to do that or else the client will be upset. We promise you that's not true, right? Like areas where you think you have to do your service a certain way and you might not have to do it that way. Like you might, but you might not have to do it that way. So you have to get really ruthless about your service. Your signature service is delivered a system, okay? Otherwise, you cannot streamline services. You cannot streamline custom services. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. So that's just going to take you more time. And that's why custom services need to be way more expensive. Delivery can also include automating and delegating. So setting up technology to make life easier for you. Things like canned emails, things like, contracts being up in a platform, everything being set and ready to go so that when you onboard a new client or when you have a sales call, you have a specific kind of like form that you fill out for that. There's no winging it. There's no making it up as you go, flying by the seat of your pants, whatever other like metaphors or cliches or idioms there are for that. And then the other piece of delivery, especially for those of you who have this problem of being booked out, is you likely need to bring some people on your team. There's 2 roles in particular that I think are important. Number 1, everybody needs a VA, especially if you're booked out, but probably before that, everybody needs a VA. So we will actually show you there's certain things that you want to hand over to your VA. It's really easy to train a VA to take over some of this admin stuff when it comes to handling your clients. So that's delivery. Sales. We need to make sure that you have a super streamlined, proven, high converting sales process that you are very minimally involved in. So that includes a high converting work with me page that sells the client for you. This is key, absolutely key. There are very specific things you need to have on your work with me page that lead the client to go, okay, yeah, I really want this service. I understand what's included. I know the price. Yes, the price on the work with me page. And then the call to action on that page is to fill out a strategic application form. This is going to eliminate so many of your problems. For those of you who are booked out, this sales process is going to help you to weed out any potential non-ideal clients and PITA, i.e. pain in the ass clients that you don't want to work with. Okay. So that process, we have that strategic application form. And then by the time you get on this very casual chat of a sales call, I hesitate to even call it a sales call, that person is already basically like, yes, I'm going to be a client of yours. And on that call, you're really just sealing the deal and making sure that it feels like a good fit and you want to work with this person. And of course that they feel like they want to work with you, but they've sussed you out more than you've sussed them out at this point. So it's really for you to be like, all right, do I want you as a client? And I want you guys to be in that position of power when you have a client call, to really be that authority figure who is confident, who knows what they're doing. And so that's really important in the sales process. And then finally, if you're currently booked out and your time is like, you probably don't even have time to listen to this podcast if you're that booked out, which is, an issue because then you're not going to get the message. But the marketing, the final pillar, right? We need to streamline our marketing. You need to block off sacred time in your weekly calendar to do this. I talked about this in last week's episode. If you are booked out and your time is limited and you work with clients, you have got to listen to last week's episode. It's a scheduling Smackdown for service providers. And you have to prioritize your time working on the marketing of your business. That means content to grow your list, getting your email, your really strategic email opt-in set up, like your newsletters, all of that, so that you can then start to transition your business to be ready to launch a program. The marketing piece is essential because the marketing piece is what links us between the service and the course. The marketing you do on this sacred marketing day is going to lead to more clients, of course, but it's also going to grow your audience, which we need to do for 90 days. I really want you to have 500 people on your list, ideally before you launch a course. Okay. So that's your ticket to the next level is we've got to get those 3 things streamlined. You'll hear me talk about this so much like for the rest of time. So get used to it. Those are the 2 problems I wanted to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about, as I mentioned to you earlier, is the 3 obstacles that you might encounter as you transition from services to offering an online course or program. Okay. So I'm going to go over them all and then I will go into them in depth. Okay. Obstacle number 1 is your identity as a solopreneur service provider. Okay. That's going to be an obstacle. Identity is a huge force. So we need to address that. The second obstacle is making short-term decisions out of impatience and or desperation. Okay. I've touched on that a little bit, but we're going to talk about that as its own topic just to make sure to drive the point home. And then obstacle number 3 is much more strategic. I've touched on this, but is not having a big enough audience. When it comes to launching a program, again, very different from a service. Services come from relationships. Any one of us listening to this has the potential to start a new service business today and get a client. Like literally, you need the least amount. It takes work. Yes, you need to have the right idea, but you could absolutely get a client. I used to think this when I was in New York City visiting is the energy of New York City. I'm like, I could literally start a new business in New York and by the end of the week have a 6-figure business. It's just like, that's the vibe. It's like, there's so many people to talk to and all that. Obviously COVID, that's not happening right now. I haven't been there in years, but services, you can really get started so fast. It's a matter of someone being like, I have this problem and you being like, okay, let me help you with that. Like that's how fast it can be. With a program, not so much. Okay, that's why this transition is so important. So let's back up. Let's go back to this obstacle number 1 is your identity as a solopreneur service provider. If you are not careful and you don't kind of recognize that your identity is wrapped up in you being your business and you're a solopreneur, and I had this so bad. I mean, this one was so hard for me. I was so caught up in my identity of like, I started my business because I was living in Paris and I wanted to find a way to make money and not have to get a real job and like just like travel and do whatever I wanted. And it was so rebellious and like focused on freedom. And so when I got to the point where my services were booking and all of that, and I needed to grow and actually become like a real business owner, it was my identity that was getting in the way. My identity as a rebellious, non-committal solopreneur who's doing it all myself. And for so long, I thought that because I was the face of the business and I was a service provider, like I had to do everything in the business. I had this ridiculous misconception, which I say ridiculous, but I know why it happened. And I think a lot of people still have this, that the people I was looking at online, that they were all the only people working in their businesses. I didn't understand. So I would see all the stuff they were doing and I'm like, oh my God, how do they do it? And then I learned they had like 10 people on their team at full time and things like that. So really important that you start to slowly chip away at that identity. And really, it always starts with this. Just be open to the idea that that might not be the best identity anymore. Be open to the idea of changing that identity. You don't have to know how to do it right now. The first step is just, you know what? I'm open to the idea that I am not a solopreneur service provider and that everything in my business needs to depend on me. I'm open to that. Because once you're open to it, then you'll be open to trainings, resources, things that are going to help you with that. Right now, if you're identified with it, there's information swirling around you on the interwebs and wherever that is already trying to help you get out of this problem. But because you're so in that identity of, I have to do everything for my clients and I have to bend over backwards and it's me and it's my face and all of that, you're not seeing it. So that's why openness is the first thing. You are probably the face of your business, but you are not your business. Thinking that you are your business is so limiting and so dangerous, both for your business and for you. You are so much more than a business, and your business needs to be so much more than you. So this idea that I am my business is so dangerous. This idea of like my business is like my baby, so dangerous. I really want you guys to be careful of saying those things. Is fine, whatever. I'm not trying to like call people out on like saying that, but just be careful of like, if you really believe it, that it might be a hard thing for you to like look at things objectively in your business because you're taking things personally and you're also really limiting your business. So like I said, you might be the face of your business. You are the owner of your business. You are definitely currently working in your business in a lot of roles, and maybe all of them at this point, but you are not the business. Just because you're fulfilling all those roles does not mean that you are the business. We need to start cognitively separating the businesses from ourselves in our minds, and the difference between working in your business and working on your business, right? Before I get to this, one more point I want to make about you being so much more than your business. You work for your business. Even as the owner of the business, you work for the business. Okay. And Denise Duffield Thomas, who I absolutely love, I saw her speak a few years ago, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, like, Madonna says that Madonna works for me. And she meant that, Denise meant that in so much as the persona that you see as Madonna is not Madonna as a person. It's the role she plays for the brand, and that is separate from her as a person. And I think that's really healthy, almost like an alter ego, or like a role that you're playing or something like that you, especially if you're the face and brand of your business, that you can really separate you from the you that's in your business. I'm not saying to not be authentic and make up a caricature of yourself or anything. I'm just saying you are always going to be more than your business, and your business needs to be able to be more than just you. So again, going back to this, the differences between working in your business and on your business. So for example, working in your business is things like doing client work, answering emails, updating your bookkeeping, writing content, any kind of implementation. Like, this is an action that needs to happen in the business, and I am doing it in any department: finance, ops, marketing, sales, delivery, anything, you name it, okay? Working on your business is taking your business, putting it in front of you and going, okay, where do I want this thing to go in the next year or two or whatever? What are the key metrics that we need to improve in the business? How are we going to get this business to the next level? So it's seeing your business almost like it's a game of Monopoly in front of you, and then you're playing Monopoly and you're strategizing. Not you're like the piece on the board of Monopoly. That was just a metaphor I made up in the moment, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's obstacle number one, is your identity as a solopreneur and a service provider. We need to replace that. We need to chip away at that. And I hope that me talking you through that has already been really helpful. Obstacle number two, making short-term decisions out of impatience and desperation. Now, if anyone understands impatience and impulsiveness, it's me. I've already established I have pretty severe ADHD. I'm as impulsive as it gets. This whole business exists because I made an impulsive decision to start a business one night while I was eating sushi in Paris, okay? So I get it. But at a certain point, we've got to put on our big CEO pants, or we've got to, put on our CEO hat, or whatever you want to call it. And we need to become a new evolved level of business owner. Many of you are too eager to launch a course, and you're letting your desire to do it cloud what is strategic and smart for you as a business owner. And it's going to cost you thousands of dollars if you don't slow down, figure out what pieces need to be in place, and do it the way that's going to work. I'm not saying there's only one way. I'm not saying everything has to be perfect. I'm just saying your rush to launch a course and not realizing how much is involved and how much needs to be in place for that to be successful is going to cause you a lot of problems financially, but also psychologically in the future, because it can be really upsetting to put all this work into launching a course, like I said, and then it not to make sales or things like that. Okay. So I want you to really hear me here. The analogy I like to use is It's like you're walking down the street and you have a balloon in each hand. Okay, just bear with me on this. So you're walking down the street, you have a balloon in each hand, and up ahead, you see a third balloon, and you really want that balloon because it's a cool balloon, okay? And you're like, oh my God, I want that balloon. And you still like your 2 balloons, and you need them because you're like, I don't know, you're headed to a party, you have to have these balloons for some reason. Just roll with me here. It's my metaphor is breaking at the seams. You have to keep these balloons, but you really, really want that new one. Like everything in you is like, I want that new balloon because maybe it's like a rainbow balloon. Like in my brand photos, I've got this cute rainbow balloon. And so what most people do is they walk up and in order to grab the rainbow balloon, they let go of one of the other balloons and it floats away. It's a helium balloon. It floats into the sky. All right. Now it's causing pollution. We got all kinds of problems. All right. Most importantly, you've lost your balloon that you needed. This is how I see when service providers go to launch a program and they let their services go. They don't think they are, by the way. They don't actively think they're doing that. They might kind of know they're doing it, but they don't realize the extent to which they're doing it. They let their services go. They stop marketing their services. They kind of just they get distracted, right? Their mind, their energy, their time gets filled up with launching the program and all of that. And so they are unable to support the client load that they had, and thus they start making less money. And then we get that desperation going on the course launch, and you guys know what happens there. We talked about that. So those short-term decisions out of impulsiveness and impatience and desperation, they're going to cost you, and they're going to cause you to end up in this sort of ping pong game of you're offering services and then you launch a course and then you realize you don't have money. So you go back to services and then you get excited. You launch the course again. And you're not really growing. You're just switching between one and the other as you get bored or as one's not working out. By the way, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect, is when things start to get hard, when we start to realize, oh, this is hard, instead of seeing it through, we jump up to the next thing, the exciting new thing. And I'll talk lots about the Dunning-Kruger. I'm gonna make a note. I will talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect at our conference because it's a really important thing for you to understand. So there you go. There's my little shameless plug for you to get your ticket so I can tell you all about how that works in this situation. But the solution here is, as I've said, you need to streamline, or sometimes I say automate, your services first so that you're able to maintain that revenue and not of that desperation, so that when you launch your program, it's just more revenue, not less revenue. Really important. I don't want you guys to get caught in that trap. So what does long-term thinking look like? So let's say you decide right now, you're like, okay, Courtney, I'm listening. I want to do this the right way. I want to launch my course in 4 months. So here's what I recommend you do for the next 3 months. Okay. You need 90 days to create a marketing growth plan for your audience. You have to get your audience to that certain point. I'd really like to see it at 500 before you launch. Okay. So I want you to spend the next 3 months focused on that audience growth. And while you're doing that during those 3 months, you also need to spend those months automating the delivery, sales, and marketing of your service. We need to get that streamlined, right? So that's enough for 3 months, okay? We've got you tightening up the services. Maybe month 1 is, delivery, then sales, then marketing, okay? So by the end of month 3, our services are streamlined, our audience is at 500, and then the 4th month, you can spend working on your course launch and creating your course and preparing for that. But it is impossible. I don't think it's possible. I'm going to go out and just say it's impossible. You cannot, as a busy service provider or as someone who isn't, whether you're too booked out or not booked out, again, your services aren't streamlined, right? And that's the first thing, to automate all those parts of your service, to grow your audience and create and launch a program in less than 3 months is not going to happen. You're going to let go of a balloon. It's going to fly away. And then you're going to be like, it's not working. My launch, I want you to give yourself 4 months minimum. Okay. I'd like to see 4 to 6 months if you want to have the best launch possible. Now, there might be a voice in your head going, but I really wanted to launch my course in March or whatever. Sit with that. Because I encourage you to ask yourself, what's causing you to want to launch it in March? Like, what is it about March? Is it just that you're attached to it emotionally? Is there another reason? We need to drill down on that because we don't want to just do it because we feel like it, because that's what we want. We need to do it because it's in the best interest of our business. Okay, getting to the end here. Finally, let's talk about the third obstacle that you face as you transition from service provider to course creator. And that is, of course, not having a big enough audience, which I've already said, enough times, but I know that there's someone listening to this that's going to walk away and still not hear this. So I'm hoping if I say it one more time that maybe it will get through. At the conference, I'm actually going to do a whole session on your 90-day audience growth plan. So if you're like, oh my God, how do I create that? Well, go get your $25 ticket to the conference. Even if you can't make it live to that session, which I hope you can, please do what you can to go live because I really want you to block off that time to work on your business, not in your business. But even if you can't, you get 7 days to watch those recordings. Then we will build out your 90-day audience growth plan so we can get you to the subscriber number, the audience number that's going to help you to hit whatever your launch goal is, okay? Because as I've said, the key difference between services and courses is absolutely marketing. Services book clients based on high-touch relationships and referrals. As I said, someone's like, hey, do you know a great photographer, naturopath, contractor, bookkeeper? And the other person's like, oh yeah, you should totally work with so-and-so. That's how people get booked out services. 100%. It's all about referrals. It's all about relationships. Courses, programs, however, are based on high visibility marketing. It takes a lot more strategy. It's a longer game. It's the difference between a marathon and a sprint. And you've got to establish yourself visibility wise and quality wise as an expert. And I'm going to give you a little inside number here. We noticed for Yay for Clients, our signature program, that on average, people are in our audience for at least 6 weeks before they enroll. So I'm telling you, we got to grow that audience well before the launch because they need time to build that know, like, and trust factor with you. Only 1 to 2% of your audience, your total audience, is going to enroll in your course or program during any given launch. Okay, that's why growing that audience is so important. Got to run those numbers. What numbers do I need to hit if only 1 to 2% is going to enroll? So growing your audience has got to be your number one focus, number one priority as you streamline your services. Okay, we've made it to the end. Let's talk about our action steps. Number one, as I've said, I want you to book time to work on your business. We've got to get you out of this cycle of just saying yes to all these clients and like the desperation. We've got to get you stepping it up and feeling like a real business owner, especially going into 2021. I'm like, we could all use a boost of confidence. We could all use just that like, yes, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. Who knows what 2021 will bring, but let's start it off with the best foot forward possible. I think the best way for you to book time to work on your business is by getting your ticket for our conference and blocking that time off, just like a personal retreat. I also really recommend that you book at least 1 day a week, and not Friday, guys, not Friday, Monday or Tuesday, one of those important days to work on your business, work on your marketing plan. Go out and actively, build relationships and get clients. That's what needs to happen during your week. So that's number one, is book time to work on your business. And again, listen to episode 10 if you're struggling with your schedule as a service provider. And then action number 2 is decide when you'd love to launch a program. Just start thinking about this because this will be a good thing if you are coming to the conference, which of course you are, for you to have in mind as you come into that, just give you a little bit of a leg up. So I suggest, as I said, giving yourself 4 to 6 months. If you're newer to services, give yourself a little bit more time. If your business is newer, if you're more established, maybe you can do it a little faster, but I still would urge you to give yourself 4 months. I really want to make sure you implement properly, you do it the right way, you take your time. And again, we want you to be growing your services as you prepare for that. So it's not like you're going to stall out financially because you're waiting to launch your program. The contraire. The contrary. So I clearly am at a loss for words. And then the more I speak, I'm probably going to start mispronouncing things and make a fool out of myself. So I'm going to let you guys go with that. Go get your tickets at CourtneyChaal.com/conference. I can't wait to see you there. Send me a message when you get your ticket, and I'll chat with you guys next week. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you love today's content and are ready to finally start making a full-time income from your business this year, make sure to get on the waitlist for my program, Yay for Clients, over at yayforclients.com, and you'll be notified the next time enrollment is open. Or if you're already booked with clients and you want to learn how you can turn your signature service into a signature program and add 100K of revenue to your bottom line, come apply to my group coaching program, Yay for 100K, over at courtneychaal.com/apply. Thanks again and have an awesome day.